So today I'm here with Kyce. Kyce has been trading for about 3 years, since mid 2020. And his trading stats are grouped by ticker within 2 hour blocks. So any trades that he takes on the same ticker within a 2 hour block will be treated as a single trade. So based on that information, he has a 61.5% win rate, and his profit factor is 3.35. And his total gain and loss for the year of 2023 up to August 30th, which is when this is being recorded, is $217,000. So, Kyce, it's a pleasure. Thanks for coming on, man.
Appreciate you having me. The pleasure's all mine.
Yeah, so I've been following your journey on Twitter for a while now. And, your journey kind of struck me as one that it's very organic. You've kind of just built over the months and the years. You've been very consistent. You've shared a lot of information on Reddit, some things that I want to touch on today.
Mhm.
So, going all the way back to 2020, mid 2020, what got you started in trading in the first place?
Well, as I imagine most people, uh, COVID, and then uh, when COVID hit, I saw a lot of the stock market news on TV. There was all the headlines about oil and then airlines, cruise lines. So I talked to my parents about that, and they got me started with a Roth account that I put some of my savings in, and naturally, I started getting curious with different things, buying my own stocks, trading around. And that happened for a few months. And at the time, I had another friend, who I was actually friends from Fortnite that I used to play. And he had started his own little trading group. So this was probably a few months after I'd started my Roth and just very basic retail trading group. He had also gotten into it with his buddies during COVID. And he invited me to that group, and basically from there, like halfway through 2020 for the next year and couple months, so all the way into 2021, um, we were just in there trading, chasing short squeezes, reading Wall Street bets, and that's basically like the first one third of my trading journey.
And how did chasing these short plays, how did that work out?
It actually went a lot better than it could have. When my very first one, I actually chased. I think this was right in 2020. Was Apple share split? That was roughly around then, and I chased it with some calls. I knew absolutely nothing about options, and when the calls adjusted for the share split, I panicked and I ended up losing a couple $1,000s. And that kind of set me straight that I didn't want to lose all my savings, which at the time was only probably five to $10,000. And from that point forward, every squeeze I joined, I started setting a risk and trying to be early, which is often better said than done. But it definitely opened my eyes to the trading side of the stock market, not just the investing.
Right. So that piqued your interest into trading. What was the next step in your journey after chasing the Apple shorts and that kind of stuff?
Well, if I can remember correctly, from Apple, I went on to Palantir that fall. I'm not sure if you recall that one. There was a big Palantir hype. It ended up having a big run.
Oh yeah.
And from Palantir, then I drifted into SPACs, which was like December 2020, early 2021. There was like I can't remember the names right off. There was like a dog food one. Oh, there was Skills, SKLZ, a couple other ones. And at the time, I thought, "Oh, yeah, just buy SPACs when they SPAC and they'll go up." But really, it was just the 2021 market. And also in early 2021, I got into the GameStop AMC squeezes, much bigger into GameStop, and I ended up making a little bit of money there. I made back my original $2,000 loss on Apple, and then uh, probably made an extra profit of like $5,000. So that really, I'd say 2021 with GameStop, that's when I realized there was real potential in trading for me. And then for the next 6 months, I just jumped from squeeze to squeeze. There was the weed stocks, Tilray, Sundial, I was basically a Wall Street bets trader for about 6 months, but it worked. And I was able to add up about $30,000 in gains for 2021 from going various squeeze to squeeze. So I got pretty lucky with joining soon enough that I caught some of those tailwinds of the COVID market.
Right. And were you under PDT during that whole run?
Yeah, I was on Robinhood, so I probably started with 5 to 10K, and then maybe by mid 2021, like early spring, I did get over PDT, and I started withdrawing just because I'd, s- you know, I'd started learning about risk management, and I'd seen some people say withdraw your account down so you don't blow it up. And I also had no money at the time, so I needed to take some out for various expenses. And yeah, probably by summer 2021, I had enough to comfortably hold myself over PDT for the rest of my trading career.
Right. So those earlier trades, those must have been some longer term trades, right? Because right now you'll go in and out multiple times a day. But how did it differ back then, back in the beginning?
Oh, it was definitely swings, like 1 day to even week-long swings.
Okay.
So I think I got in GME in December 2020, and I ended up selling that early in the squeeze in January, late January. So that was probably like 20 days. That was probably my longest, but majority of them were like 3 to 5 day holds. And one of the reasons I got into day trading uh, was because I was so anxious that early in my career. Having the overnight swings was not good for my sleep. I'd wake up at 4 a.m. every day just to check the market. It just wasn't a very comfortable feeling.
And so once you did hit PDT, did you kind of change your approach to not hold overnight and take more intraday scalps?
Yeah, the more I traded into 2021 and developed into late 2021, I realized it fit my personality better to just take shorter trades. Uh, Obviously, the swinging overnight just didn't feel very good. And then I started learning a bit more about the technical side of trading, and I could, scalp my wedges or my breakouts, whatever it was at the time I was trying to trade, and it just fit my personality better. I've always been quick to lock in wins and quick to cut losers versus I think some people when they start, they hold their losers and they might hold their winners more. It's just more of who I am.
And what resources did you use in the beginning to learn this scalping strategy that you have today?
Definitely uh Reddit was the primary resource until spring, summer 2021. And then at that time I was getting a bit more active on Twitter. I hadn't started posting, but I had started following a lot more accounts. And Twitter by far has been the most influential resource after that early period on Reddit. So you can learn so much on Twitter from basically any style of trading. There's people on there that will be sharing information about it. And I started finding more day traders on there, and they influenced my style uh, greatly.
Gotcha. And what kind of things are you looking for in the Twitter, in the people that you follow on Twitter? Are you looking for charts, or are you actually reaching out to some of these guys and asking questions and stuff like that?
Early on, I didn't really reach out to many people. Honestly, I just liked the people that would share their charts with their basic theses for what they wanted to see. I think there's a guy, his name's like Jake Woos, something weird, Wookostic. I followed him for a while because he would post his charts like every week, like 10 different charts of stocks. And
Mhm.
he would say, these are the ones I'm watching with his various wedges or trend lines or whatever it may be. And then I would keep those up on my watch list to watch for those breakouts or breakdowns. So definitely I was looking for trade ideas because I wanted to trade those ideas my own way.
It was basically Twitter until you found some consistency and
Yeah, Reddit and then gravitated to Twitter. Now it's pretty much all Twitter. I use Discord. I think almost every trader does. I'm in a couple chat rooms, but I'm not active on Discord that much during the day. I'm just focusing on trading and then checking what other people were up to during the day afterwards on
Right.
Twitter.
So for you, were you full time from the beginning, or was there a part where you transitioned to full time?
Um, I transitioned to full time at January 1st of 2022. And so I've been full time exactly 1 year and uh 8 months, 8 full months. And I was in college at the time in 2021, and I did not want to continue college. It just wasn't right for me. And as I said, I was having a little bit of success in early 2021, and then into late 2021, I switched from the options swing side. I was into more of the scalping, and then I learned about small caps and I started practicing there. So late 2021, I got into small caps, and then by 2022, I was slightly profitable on very small size, but not very proven. And I decided to take a bit of a leap of faith, and I dropped out to start fresh, start the 2022 year fresh. And I've been full time ever since.
Wow. Okay. And so with college, doing both at the same time, was that just too stressful, or you had classes at the wrong times? You just wanted to devote all of your time to the market, or is just this is just your passion? This is where you saw yourself going long term.
It was definitely my passion. I wasn't sure it was feasible long term because at the time I hadn't made too much money or very consistently, but college plus trading was too much work and the time was the issue. In 2020 and the first half of 2021, the classes were online because of COVID. So that worked out well. I would just do my classwork after market hours. But my classes switched to full in person that fall of 2021. And I didn't get to trade much that fall because of the class timings. I tried to get evenings and mornings, but it just didn't work out. And I felt like it was limiting my potential in trading. And I honestly just chose trading over college.
Yep. No, makes sense. And so once you went full time, did you feel any kind of pressure to make it work right away?
There's definitely been a lingering pressure to make it work, knowing that, this is I don't have that degree to fall back on, but I am confident in my capability. And early 2022, in those first couple months, I got my consistency down pretty quickly. I knew I was close at the end of 2021, but it wasn't quite proven. And then there was some pressure. But once I got those first couple months, you know, my strategy really sound how I wanted it, that pressure lifted. And then after my first couple 10K months in 2022, that pressure is really abated completely now.
Right. Once you build the padding, per
Right.
se.
It's just about confidence, and you have to have self-confidence. Your inner self-talk has to be positive and confident. And the more you uh, tell that to yourself and continue to study, show up and trade, do all your rules, make your money, the more that just becomes your normal, and then you don't really feel it as a pressure.
Right. So you mentioned studying, and I'd imagine once you go full time, there's lots of pressure to make this work, and to scale up your strategy as soon as possible. And a lot of that comes down to having confidence, and I'm sure that that comes from studying. So,
hmm
what kind of studying, or what does studying look like for you?
Early on, it was after market close. I would just take a couple hours break, take a nap, eat, go to the gym, and then that night I would come back after my brain had a few hours to just uh, de get all the stock trading out of my head. I would bring it back into my brain fresh and just review chart picks and uh, study things on Twitter, read some Reddit, watch a video on a topic you're trying to learn, whatever it may be. But I'd say for the first year, so all of 2022, my rule for myself was to not miss a single day. And for that year, I probably only missed a couple days. So every day it was at least an hour or two each night of whatever it may be I was focusing on.
So, what does a typical trading day look like for you, just as far as
Um,
routines go?
yeah, if I'm at the screens, I'm probably going to try to be pretty active. So for that reason, I don't trade pre-market. So I'll actually wake up pretty close to market open, check the scan, and go from there. Probably trade the first 3 to 4 hours of the day, take a break, and then come back. It's nothing, no secret sauce for my trading day. It's just show up, you know, trade, get a good break, and then finish out the afternoon. I don't trade after hours either, so just during the day.
Nice. And then are you still studying later in the afternoon, or has that kind of fallen by the wayside as you found more and more success and found your
I've
edge?
def I've definitely studied less now. I think there's a fine balance with the amount of studying you do. I could almost study too much sometimes and get distracted on things that were outside of my edge or overthink certain things. There's a happy medium once you find your strategy and your edge, uh, to keeping it fresh and fixing your mistakes because as you go, you will continue to make mistakes. But so I'd probably say I study a couple times a week now for a couple hours. At the end of each month, or if I have a bad week, I'll sit down for a couple hours and review all my trades and figure out what the issues were. It's really I play it as necessary. So if I'm performing pretty well, then I won't study too much.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I'm kind of the same way these days.
Yeah.
If it's bad, right, you want to figure out how to fix it.
hmm It's not that you know everything, but once you learn enough and you've seen enough to execute your strategy each day, unless you're trying to learn a new edge, there's really not a lot of studying that's necessary.
Yep. I wanted to ask you about your approach to scaling up because as I followed you on Twitter, you've scaled up quite significantly. I mean, multiple magnitudes. So, how did you approach that? Do you have a technique that you've used?
Yeah, for a while, I would obviously, as I've stated, my personality is to always been lock in the quick wins and cut the losers quick. I just have never been one to take big risk. Um, and with that, I try to build up a cushion each month or week, or even on the year. When the year starts, I'll trade a little bit smaller and cautiously till I have a cushion built up. And from that cushion, I'll start to risk more. So in 2022, when I first started, I was probably trading maybe 50 to $100 in a day. That would be my P&L swing. And as I built up that first couple $1,000s in profit, then I started risking 150 to $200. And I've just risked as I've created more profit. There's no super specific strategy to it, but if I have a good start to a week or a good start to a month, then I'll absolutely size up, a quarter or a third or even a half if I'm liking it, kind of risking the profits as I go.
Right. And so every month, do you reset back down to a certain level and then scale back up?
I don't have a monthly or a weekly reset. If I finish a month strong, I'll just try to carry that momentum into the next month within reason. I don't want to start one month with a big loss because I was massive on my size, but uh, I try to carry the momentum as I go. But as it is with scalping, it only takes a couple days to notice sometimes that things are slowing down, and I could cut my size in half in a day or two if I struggle.
Gotcha. So it's more like a trailing month, if you will. And if you notice that things are slow, you'll cut it. But if you have some good solid padding, you've done well in the past month, obviously the market is probably cooperating, then you'll continue to push the size.
Yeah, I'd say a trailing month is a good descriptor of it. It's been almost my sizing has been mainly on the mental. There hasn't been a super curated plan for it. I think in a Reddit post I have detailed kind of how I like to build up a cushion and size up from there. That's I do most of that mentally. So as I feel comfortable with where I'm at, I go up.
Another thing that I notice is you're extremely meticulous at trade journaling.
Mm.
So I wanted to ask, what kind of journaling are you doing, and how has that impacted your learning curve?
Uh, Good question. I've since I started full time 2022, I decided one of the expenses I was going to take on was a trade journal, and this was before I was making much money. I just plotted it out. It would cost me a couple $100 for the first couple years, so I got it. So I have every trade that I've ever taken as a full-time trader in my journal, which has been super helpful. I referenced that journal daily for the first year. Just prints, stats, areas of weakness. Most trading journals have more information than you really need to dig into. Time of day, what your win rate is, uh, price of stock that you're winning on. All those details you can dig into. Once you build up a few months of stats, your edge is actually there. I've talked about this before. If you are if you are new to trading and you start journaling your trades and you build up a few months worth of stats, maybe a little bit more depending on your strategy, your edge is actually in those stats. You may not be profitable, but you're losing trades that are holding you back or your areas of weakness are in those stats. And if you can eliminate those, then your profit's just sitting there. Somewhere in those stats is your profit. You just have to figure out the wrong stuff you're doing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're looking to figure out, where you can kind of optimize, if you will.
Yeah. For scalping, it's been pretty much optimization for the past uh since I started full time. If my profit factor was low, I'd look at ways of cleaning that up or why win rate was low. Maybe I would start trading certain setups less that were holding me back. It's really you get into journaling, you get out of journaling what you put in, I think is the saying, and that's very true. If you aren't really breaking it down specifically, so you know the actual details of the trades that are holding you back or winning for you, you're not going to learn much. If you just record the trades, then you probably won't learn much. But if you really get in there and break it down trade by trade, you can improve your strategy drastically.
Right. Do you have any like specific examples of things that you would cut out or stop doing or optimize?
Early in my career, one thing I did, yeah, here's a perfect example. Probably a couple months into 2022, one of my biggest sets of losers were low volume trades under VWAP. That was just an area I was struggling. And I ended up reviewing that for a couple weeks and I decided I'm just not going to trade anything under VWAP. And it wasn't a perfect solution to my problem. There was obviously other reasons I was losing, but at the time that cut out a large portion of my losers. It also cut out some winners, but it was a net positive for my edge, so to speak. And for the next I don't know, 6 to 8 months, I never traded a stock under VWAP. And my performance improved. Now, as I've gotten more experience, I don't have any rules like that off the top of my head, but making changes like that as I went were definitely instrumental in improving.
I know early on I did the same thing with just not trading backside. I realized the same
Right.
thing. Looked at the stats, realized, okay, this is where I'm losing all my money. And now I will trade backside, but again, I have more experience now and I can see which backsides are better than others. And I'm sure you're seeing the same thing versus when a stock's under VWAP, which ones have volume or which ones are likely to present opportunities
Right.
versus others.
I wouldn't Yeah, I'd say most people shouldn't be afraid to make arbitrary rules to temporarily fix problems with their trading. Under VWAP isn't necessarily a specific rule to fix an issue. I mean, it is a specific rule, but it doesn't address the underlying problem with why you might be losing. But if it can temporarily fix that problem while you gain more experience, then go ahead and do that. Uh, like maybe don't trade stocks over a certain value or under a certain, kind of like you're finding out with trading pennies more. You obviously have edge trading non-pennies, but for the most part, you're focusing more on the penny side just because it's working.
Right. Yeah. If you took a profit factor of the trades in a bucket that are over VWAP and the trades in the bucket that are under VWAP, and vice versa with with pennies over a dollar or
Exactly.
below a dollar, there's just so much more edge in one of those buckets.
Right. And when you go to journal early on, there's often a few different categories like that that you can quickly fix with this simple rule. Like another one just off the top of my head I remember was trading right off the open. Now it's one of the best times to trade because it's super volatile and has the volume to make a quick profit. But early on, I would get smoked because it was too whippy for my experience. So I wouldn't trade off the open for like 30 minutes. That was just a rule I had.
Mhm.
So same idea.
All very good points. Another question I had is around goals. Are you one to set goals in your trading, whether that's like daily, weekly, monthly P&L goals?
I've never really had uh P&L oriented goals. If I did have a goal, it would probably be, along the way I had smaller goals like eliminate X mistake I was making. Don't make this mistake for a month. And that would come after a monthly review. I would say, oh man, this mistake was killing me. I would I even used to put those mistakes on my phone screen. And so I would see them every day, multiple times a day. And the goal would be for the next month, don't make that mistake. And then the product of that goal would be, a better trading stat or P&L, but no P&L oriented goals.
Gotcha. That's really interesting. So, one, you're creating actionable goals, things that you can really
Hmm.
take action on. It's not because P&L goals are, in a way, you're kind of hoping that the market provides, right? And you're setting
Right.
yourself up for failure if it doesn't, because you want to hit this goal. But with reviewing your trades and looking at areas that you could improve and putting it on the phone screen is really interesting, actually, because you are going to see it over and over again.
Yeah,
Getting that reinforcement.
I had somebody mention that to me the other day, and then I was like, "Oh yeah." I scrolled through my phone and I found some of the old screenshots I had. So they had been doing the same thing too, and it's just a clever idea to build that reinforcement on a bad habit.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Do you have any trading rules that you go by, like max losses or drawdown limits and stuff like that?
Um, Once again, not too specific. It's kind of with my sizing up. I manage that more on the mental side, but I do have a basic idea of what I want. I'm never gonna let myself lose more than a week's gains in a day. So a few $1,000 and I'm gonna just call it quits for the day. So I would say, yeah, that would be my max loss side of things. For a while, I would calculate that, and I did a post. My most recent post on Reddit was about this. But you can just take a running tab of your most recent green days and kind of use that as a general range for how much you want to lose in a single day. If you're willing to lose 5 green days worth in one day, that's fine. It really depends on your strategy. But um, for max loss, I do it more on the mental side.
How about drawdowns? Let's say you do have a couple red days and you're in a drawdown. Are you going to keep the same size?
Yeah, that's a good question. Definitely not. Early on, I had a couple decent drawdowns, and this was before I'd really become established. And that can put you in a really bad state as a unproven trader to yourself. You might think that you're never going to be a trader or just kind of that the world's collapsing around you because of a big drawdown. And that's a bad place to be to try and keep the same size or size up. So, yeah, if I have a bad day, I'll approach the next day with probably half size. And if I have another bad day, which is pretty rare to have two in a row, then I'll come in with even smaller size. So usually it would take me 2 to maybe 4 days to recoup that original loss if I am sized down, which I believe is the correct thing that most people should be doing.
Right? Because there's so many more, or there's so much less emotion involved in those subsequent days. And yeah, it's going to take longer. And obviously, nobody wants to go through that or hear that. But it's just what's required. And at the end of the day, you're going to come out of that with more edge, or you're going to come out of it alive because you're in a weaker market that's not providing as many opportunities. Maybe that's why you got in the drawdown in the first place.
Right. I think that's probably the easiest way people lose their career early on or their chance to make it as a trader is drawing down and sizing up to try to make it back. Because
Mhm.
if you take two losses in a row, it's pretty much going to spiral at that point. And if it doesn't, then you're set back a lot longer than you would have been if you'd sized down. So that's probably the most non-negotiable thing for me. There's no need to give back more than a couple days at any given drawdown.
Right. And that kind of goes to what you were saying earlier, where if you have a solid month, you're scaling up. So it's the same thing, but in reverse.
Right.
You're kind of adding to your winners in a sense and
hmm
cutting your losers short.
Right. Everybody's personality and strategy is different, but the rule of thumb that I think most people could agree on is as you're performing well, increase your risk, and then as you're performing not well, decrease your risk. That's probably a rule of thumb traders could live by,
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
sounds like common sense, but when there's emotions involved, it's not how it happens a lot of the time.
Yeah. So are there any things in your trading that you're working on right now, trying to improve?
Yeah. Earlier this year, my main focus was sizing up. I'd felt I'd proven to myself over the prior year and prior months that I was in a position to just put more risk on. And I was in the process of having a couple good days, and then that third or fourth day, hitting that bigger size and either having a bigger day or taking a couple more days to reset and do the same. The market, or I should say my edge, has slowed a bit this summer. So I'd say right now the only thing I'm focused on is just treading water, getting the consistent gains and not allowing myself to have an emotional day that gives back much. So next time, as the market heats back up, which I think it's in the process of doing, I'll probably fall back more into the sizing up, capitalize more side of things. But for now, the only thing I'm focused on is just limiting drawdown and staying steady.
Gotcha. And do you have any plans to add to your strategy, diversify, get other strategies, or are you really just focused on what you know has been working and what has worked for you in the past?
I'm sticking to what I know. Uh, in there is some ideas I want to dabble in as the months go, but for now, I know this bankroll building income that I'm making is very valuable to my trading future. So once I get to a more comfortable spot with maybe a larger account, then there are some other strategies or things I would look into to add to my edge or grow. But right now, my focus is really on my bread and butter.
Makes sense. I don't know if you follow Nate. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Michaud or something,
Yeah,
from Investors Underground.
I
But
do.
he recently said something that it kind of struck a bell with me. Is just He said for the traders that they're making it, they're making consistent income. Those first few years are really about building that cushion, right? Building that bankroll, so that you
Mhm.
have the freedom in further years to either take time off or do different things with your trading, scale up, take bigger risks, or trade less and really swing on those A+ setups. And I feel like that's kind of in the phase that probably we're both in right now. Just build that padding, and it's not monthly padding anymore. It's a yearly padding. It's bankroll.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that was actually a great post. I saw that post that he made a day or two ago. He's absolutely right. It depends on your long-term goals and your personality, but for me, I'm happy to take a little bit longer on the bankroll building side of things, and then from there I can make a plan for what I want my future in trading to be. Because for some people, scalping a consistent income may be all they ever want, and that's completely fine. Now, others might want to turn that into a seven-figure bankroll to do more investing or swinging, and that's fine too. But I agree with you and Nate that this early income is extremely valuable.
Looking at yourself, what kind of personality traits do you have that you feel like are valuable when it comes to trading?
Um, I would say probably the main thing is I've always had very good discipline. I don't know if you could consider that a personality trait. I
Yeah,
would
for
say
sure.
it probably is. Even before I got into trading, uh, I played soccer at a pretty high level, and I was very big into my fitness, my diet, tracking my macros to make sure I could perform at the best. And some of the lessons you learn doing stuff like that about being consistent, not having days where you not having cheat days on your diet where you give back a lot of progress or whatever it may be. Those lessons carry over in a sense to trading. So I'd say discipline, and then I'm trying to think if there's another one. Um, this one's a double-edged sword. I'd say my appetite for risk. It's good because I don't take a lot of drawdown and I cut losers quick, but it's also harmed me in situations where I cut winners too early, and even back in my option swing days, I actually cut some winning trades that went on to be, massive potential trades. So discipline first, I'd say my risk management, personality, but that one's more of a double-edged sword.
In trading, what drives you to come to the desk every day and get better and do this for a living?
Well, I definitely got into trading to escape potentially getting stuck at a 9 to 5 I didn't enjoy. So money is the main driver, but as I've gotten more into trading and learned how to build my edge, I do find I enjoy the actual trading side of things. Almost like a video game. Uh, I do like being right. So finding a stock, building a thesis, executing it properly, aside from the money you make, that is satisfying to do every day. Obviously, the money is an extremely big part of why we trade, but uh, just being right and having a challenge is definitely one of the main drivers for me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want the SEC to come after me for this, but like, I've always kind of thought of the market as a video game, and it's fun, right? Sitting down at the desk
Right?
every day and trading, it is fun. And then, if you win real money, and you have you're right. You were right that day. Um, so,
Right.
and that's exciting.
I need to be right every day. It keeps my ego alive.
I think you shared a lot of wisdom here. What are your goals in the future, personal or not?
Yeah, I have things I want to continue doing, so I guess I could call those goals, but, showing up every day, making trading, but I don't really have any major goals. I'd like to reach seven figures sometime in the next couple years. Uh, Personal goals, definitely my fitness. I love going to the gym. I've been going to the gym for many years now, since I was a teenager. So that's a goal of mine to keep doing that. But there's no real new goals that I'm trying to achieve at the moment.
So just continue on the very
Yeah.
successful path that you've had so far.
Yeah, I like the path I've laid out for myself so far. So my goal is probably just to continue doing that until I reach a point where I want to do other things. I played a little bit more golf in the past month or two, so I'm getting into that. That could be a new goal of mine. Kinda is to just build that skill, but
There you go. That's awesome.
just continue most of the things I've been doing is my goal.
Cool. Well, for anybody who wants to learn more about you or follow what you're doing, where can they find you?
Uh, Twitter at KyceFN, KYCEFN, and then I'm also on Reddit. That's linked to my Twitter bio, so I won't uh I won't spell that out. Other than that, that's my only online alias that you can reach me at, but I'm happy to chat with people on Twitter and DMs or replies to my posts. Yeah,
Awesome. And yeah, like I said earlier, I really enjoy following you on Twitter and the things that you post, and then also your Reddit threads are really valuable, especially for any beginner traders. A lot of the topics we touched on today, he has written up in length posts on Reddit, and you're a very good writer, if I do say so myself.
thank you. Appreciate that. Most of my posts on Reddit, um, I try to put in an actionable format. So we've brought up goals a few times. There's a step between goals and then doing something. You kind of have to have a plan or something that's easily actionable. So most of my topics that I write about, uh, almost all traders of all strategies can pick one or two things from the post and be like, that's something I could start doing tomorrow if I feel like it benefits me. So I think that's why those posts have had a good feedback from most people.
Yeah, I love when I can read something and like immediately take something away. Right? That's always what we're looking for when we scroll
Right,
Twitter infinitely or Reddit. We're looking for those actual posts that are going to make us better tomorrow.
right, exactly.
Well, that's awesome, man. I appreciate your contribution to the community, and I appreciate
You as well.
you coming on today. Thank you. It was great talking to you.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me on. Uh, this one was more focused on my personal side of things. I mean, there's definitely some trading talk in there, but perhaps in the future we could do one more around my strategy.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would love to have you on in the future, and we can go through some more detailed stuff as it comes up.
All right, that sounds good. Thank you. I appreciate it.